If you can identify yourself for the record and then proceed with your presentation.
Good afternoon to the chair and to committee members. My name is Dora Beck, Acting Department Environmental Management Director. I have with me our other department members, Robin Bauman, who is a business manager, business services manager, and also Greg Gudeo, who is the solid waste division chief, and Riz Mangaang, who is the acting wastewater division chief. Lau Hirota couldn't make it today. He has some previous engagements that he couldn't break out of. So I'm just going to jump right into the presentation. What I also passed out to you folks so you can follow along is an outline of what I was going to go over, and also some photos demonstrating some of the conditions at the Gila wastewater treatment plant. I thought that would be effective. So for you folks that are new, I'm just going to quickly go over, for example, the functions in the department of the sections. Department of Environmental Management and Business Services section. Basically, we service the wastewater and solid waste divisions by overseeing the contracts, procurement, billing, collections, payroll, and human resources. Again, as I said, Business Services Manager is Robin Bauman. The wastewater division is a 24-hour, 7-day operation that oversees the operation and maintenance of wastewater facilities, including 6 wastewater treatment plants, 16 pump stations, and 100 miles of sewer line on this island. They manage the wastewater infrastructure projects associated with upgrade or repair to the existing facilities. Acting Wastewater Division Chief and Acting Wastewater Division Deputies are Lau Hirota and Riz Mangaang. On the Solid Waste Division, the main function is to transport municipal solid waste island-wide. They operate and maintain solid waste collection and recycling facilities at 21 transfer stations, manages the solid waste disposal at the South Gila Sanitary Landfill, with the exception of the West Hawaii Sanitary Landfill, which is managed under a contract. They manage the solid waste infrastructure projects associated with upgrade and repair to existing facilities. And they oversee the recycling and abandoned vehicle sections. The Solid Waste Division Chief is Greg Gudeo. The recycling section and the AV section is also under the Solid Waste Division, and the recycling section manages the various contracts that provide recycling services to the public, which encourages diversion of materials out of the landfills, thus prolonging the landfill life. The recycling section also conducts recycling, educational, outreach, and services to communities. The abandoned vehicle section removes derelict and abandoned vehicles from public roadways. Moving on to Section 2, the funding sources for departments and sections. Environmental Management and Business Services section is funded through 3 special funds. One of them being is the Wastewater Division. That is special funded through sewer use fees. And with this budget, we are looking at requiring a general fund subsidy to be able to continue for Wastewater Division to function adequately. Solid Waste Division is also special funded and receives a general fund subsidy. The abandoned vehicle section is special funded through vehicle disposal fees, which are collected by Department of Finance, and does not receive a general fund subsidy. Staffing, environmental management administrative staff. There are 3 permanent positions. 2 are filled, 1 is vacant, or 1 vacant and funded position. Business Services section has 20 permanent positions. Right now there's 14 filled positions and 2 that are vacant and funded, and we expect to fill that in May, and there are currently 4 unfunded positions. Wastewater Division has 54 permanent positions, of which 45 are filled. And I want to mention that of those 45, 5 are administrative staff related. So you got 3 engineers, 1 technician, and 1 wastewater project manager, which currently oversees 11 CIP projects worth $56 million. Wastewater Division does not have any vacant or funded positions. or vacant unfunded positions. Unfunded is 9 positions. Solid Waste Division and Vehicle Disposal Fund, or the Vehicle Disposal group, has 113 permanent positions, and of those positions are 100 filled positions, of which 8 are administrative related. There's 1 vacant position and 12 unfunded positions. Moving on to section 4, the fiscal year 13-14 budget highlights. Under Environmental Management Administration and Business Services section, there's been a discontinuation of furloughs. There's been a deferral on replacement of aging computers. Under the sewer fund, again, I mentioned earlier that the wastewater is special funded and does not receive a general fund subsidy. The current budget is not adequate to maintain our sewer system. In years past, the wastewater division has deferred equipment replacement and facility repairs and spent only where absolutely necessary without sacrificing worker safety, violating regulatory requirements, or forsaking quality of sewer service to the community. The sewer fund balance and equipment reserve fund balance will be depleted in fiscal year 13-14. Continuing to provide adequate sewer service will require a sewer rate increase and a general fund subsidy. The FY 13-14 budget does not reflect a sewer rate increase and includes a small general fund subsidy of $145,196, which is resulting from limited available county funds. 7 vacant positions were unfunded due to limited available funds. The limited fund balance reserve for replacement is not adequate to support needed equipment and utility costs and repairs to facilities, as the majority of it is being used to fund other operating cost expenditures. For the solid waste fund, there's also been a discontinuation of furloughs. 3 vacant positions were unfunded due to limited available funds. The certified redemption centers at 10 designated transfer stations was discontinued due to limited available funds. These certified redemption centers were previously funded by monies received from the state program, Beverage Container Deposit Program. The DOH or Department of Health has indicated that they will no longer be providing funds to the counties for this program. Under Section 5, I'm going to list the significant fund needs in the fiscal year 13-14 budget. For wastewater division, we need to fund the 7 vacant, recently unfunded positions, and that total cost is $329,352. Justification for that is the various positions are required to maintain the day-to-day operations of the treatment plant, sewage pump facilities, and collection system, maintaining compliant status with DOH-issued wastewater discharge permits to avoid penalties due to violations, maintaining adequate staffing at facilities, and continuing the asset management program. We need to increase funding by $1,135,000 for specific line items in the operating cost expense budget. Justification is so that we can successfully complete the equipment replacement repairs due to old age, natural wear and tear, and chemical deterioration. We need to be able to install systems to prolong the life of facilities, replace outdated equipment, do repairs to buildings and vehicles that have been pushed back due to lack of funds or other unanticipated repairs that take precedent. So at this point, I'm going to direct your attention to the photos that you have in front of you. There's a total of 6 photos, and 2 represent separate projects that are currently listed as equipment replace projects in the budget itself in wastewater. The first 2 photos is related to the Gila wastewater treatment plant septic station. The septic receiving station, the purpose is to receive wastewater and sludge from private haulers who pump out cesspools, septic tanks, and porta potties. From there on, it gets pumped over to the first process of the treatment train, which is called the headworks. The first photo just shows an overview, or rather a bird's eye picture of the septic receiving area. The problem is, if you look at the next page, where it's showing the close-up of the existing pumps and also a portable pump. The problem is that both pumps are out. One needs repair and one is beyond repair, so we can't even use that. So wastewater is having to use a portable pump. It's not efficient to use a portable pump, and you could get cited by Department of Health for continuing this practice. So the need is to replace the two pumps, which are old, or you can't even use one of them anymore. Moving on to the next two photos, this is the Wailua sewage pump station. And what you have on the first photo is it's called a flow matcher, but basically what it is, it's a control center for the pump motors at the Wailua sewage pump station. Wailua pump sewage station is located here in Hilo, and it is the pump station that receives all the flows from Hilo town before pumping it to the next pump station, which is the Pua pump station, which then pumps it up to the Gila wastewater treatment plant for treatment. So the control here, called the flow matcher, is more than 40 years old and probably could fail at any time. If it fails, we can operate the plant or the motors or the pumps on automatic, but what this ends up being is very high energy costs and greater wear and tear on the equipment, just because you're having to run the motors at such high RPMs. So the need here is to replace the flow matchers. The second photo, again, is showing one of the pumps covered by some garbage bags, and that's protected from the roof leak. When this building was designed, it wasn't designed very wisely or in a very smart way. The roof is like a V, and so there's like the sort of the trough in the center. Really, so it's not directing water away. It's directing to the center of the building. Now there's leaks up in the roof, and so we're having all these leaks coming down the water and hitting the pumps and the pump motors. So, which is not a good thing. Since these are not submersible motors, it's not a good idea. Okay, the last two photos is at the Gila wastewater treatment plant, the third project on our budget list, showing the aerated grit tank. And what the aerated grit tank does is that is the headwork section, which is the start of the treatment process. What you're seeing, all that pitting, is the result of corrosion due to hydrogen sulfide. It's a natural phenomenon in the wastewater. It happens all the time. So you just try and do things to minimize or retard it. Failure to repair will result in higher future repair cost. Some of the things that you can do to retard such effects is what wastewater has done is they've recently installed what's called a chemical addition system at the Wailua pump station. And what that does is combat the H2S problem by injecting a caustic chemical in it, which basically raises the pH. Lower pH results in acid, and that is what causes the corrosion. So in the budget, there's a line item for caustic chemicals, which if it doesn't get funded, that doesn't do this new system any good and doesn't help with the efforts to try and retard the process of H2S corrosion. So the need here is, for this particular project, is to repair these 2 tanks. But we also need the chemicals to run that system. The last photo is just more of a close-up showing the deteriorated concrete from H2S. So if you ask me, it looks pretty bad. Okay, so that is basically the funding needs for wastewater division. That total sum is $1,464,352. That will increase this budget by up to $9.62 million. Last year's wastewater approved budget was $9.3 million. On the solid waste division side, we need to fund the 3 vacant positions that were recently unfunded. Total cost of that is $158,724. Justification for that is 2 of the positions are required to maintain adequate operation of the east side landfill and the transfer stations. 1 is the engineering position, which is needed to help solid waste division with design and construction on CIP projects and management of solid waste operations. Number 2, we need to fund 5 vacant, previously unfunded positions. Total cost of that is $299,173, and this is including benefits. Justification for this is currently there's unplanned overtime being used to staff services and needs, including the e-waste collection events. There's unplanned OT to extend the transfer station hours at Pahala. Green waste collection at west side transfer stations. Hauling green waste to the processing facility at West Hawaii Organics facility. And hauling residential scrap metal to an off-site vendor, which is what we're going to be doing under the new scrap metal contract. Funding these 5 vacant positions will increase staffing to an adequate level to reduce worker fatigue and increase worker productivity. Overtime hours can potentially be reduced by about $236,000. That's 33% of the fiscal year 13-14 OT budget. And this affords a savings of about $292,682 if you factor in benefits. The third thing is we need to fund the Certified Redemption Center program, or also known as the Hi-Fi program. That total cost is $460,000. Currently, there are 10 CRCs, of which 5 are located in underserved areas, such as Honoka'a, Hawi, Puako, Waihinu, and Pahoa. Not funding this by either county or state funds will eliminate county CRCs, causing users to potentially drive further to areas where privately managed CRCs are located. In fiscal year 11-12, we received $765,000 from the state, and the county redemption rate was 92%. This is based on state statistics on number of containers sold and redeemed. In fiscal year 10-11 and fiscal year 9-10, we also received $765,000, and the county redemption rates were greater than 90%. So that goes to show that this program has been successful on this island. Knowing that funds are not abound in the county and considering the need to maintain this service, the recycling section made efforts to reduce costs by lessening the operating hours and days at the 10 CRC sites. This is why you're seeing $460,000. The reduction is taken into account of trying to minimize impact to customer needs as well. So that total cost increase request in Solid Waste Division totals to $917.897, bringing the budget up to about 25.8 million. Last year's approved budget was 25.4 million.
Attended a presentation by Environmental Management for their advisory committee, and what you're seeing is really only the tip of the iceberg. So those 6 to 10 projects in those 6 pages, they're really like 30 of those wastewater issues that in order to repair and bring them up to the level that we're not at risk of getting EPA fines, and that we're not to the level where we're contributing in some way to degradation to the environment, is really more than what you're seeing here, which is pretty horrifying in my view. And I think that the word that I just want to underscore and support in the need for additional funding is that the budget is inadequate. It's not that Nancy or Dora isn't trying to, how can we best do with what money's there? There just is not a realistic budget for what's needed here, and that we can't keep squeaking by and thinking that we can make do for the recruitment, repairs, and the upgrades that are needed. So I just think that this is a real reality testing of what I think. If we just took the wastewater department and looked at how do we handle it for the next 2 years, but really, what do we really need? I mean, even Dora is head of, was doing wastewater and is now doing the entire department as head of the entire department. So, and even looking at the staff that you recommended, I think you're just doing, what is the staff such that we aren't dying? I mean, that people aren't just leaving. I mean, it's so such a severe situation. I think that's the big picture, and I think that we really have to come to grips to how do we deal. These are $1 million repairs to some extent. I mean, even 10 million isn't going to touch everything that she's covered right there. What I'd like to just be saying is Puaco needs a wastewater study. I mean, here I am. Here's something additional where you have a reef that's deteriorating, that's of a significant level to not just the folks in Puaco, but is a district asset and is a county-wide asset. If you go drive down the coast, look at where all of the boats come to watch and to do snorkeling. That this is across the board, and we're getting more and more algae blooms and more problems there. So I think that the request for the study is just, let's see what the options are and see what we can do. I also, as you know, we're concerned on the High Five program, and I've continued to call the state, and we did a resolution way back, I don't know whether it was in December, just urging them to continue that funding, and the last we called it still, well, we don't know yet, and we don't think so yet, and again, here's a program where we're doing it really well. Our county does the best, and it's, again, the state dropping the ball, and instead of dealing with revenues on its own side, it's how to take from our county, and our county is getting hit. So I'm going to yield to allow some of the specific questions. I do want to stress somehow figuring out how to get the Puaco study underway, and I could go on, but I think if we just take wastewater as an example of where we've got to be reality tests more in terms of the budget, and not just putting off. And look, just keep in mind what happened to Honolulu, where they got those fees. And if we start spending money on, when they charge fees for fines, they aren't $10,000 ones, they're hundreds of $1,000s, and we're dealing with it then to pay fines that go nowhere towards making the necessary repairs. So I just really urge all of us to be supportive and somehow get real about what kind of budget we need and somehow how we come up with the funds. I yield.
Thank you. Come on this side, Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real briefly, Ms. Willie, I agree. It's not. We all know it's not an adequate budget. The only way to change that is to raise revenues somehow, which is another discussion we'll have. So I agree. So, Ms. Beck, I have a series of questions for you. So, sewer, the wastewater section has always basically taken care of itself, for the most part.
Correct.
How much in past due fee or bills are we in fees? Because I know we're owed quite a lot of money.
Over 90 days is about 1.2 million.
Okay. That 1.2 million just about takes care of what your request would be. It would obviously, we're getting into a reactionary state, it feels like, in a lot of various departments. I feel like it's important that we get onto a proactive state. If this would have been collected, we might have been coming in and saying, hey, we need $200,000. A lot easier to handle. As well, in that, I mean, Pahoa needs a wastewater study too. There's a lot more that needs to be done in that area. Maybe raising fees will make sense. I personally believe that section of that fund should be self-funded. It's one of those areas that makes a lot of sense. On the High Five program, I want to make sure I understand this properly. The $460,000 requested, that's for staffing of those places? Or is that to actually pay back the redemption? Because if we buy the can, soda in the store, we pay that 5 cents to 6 cents. When we collect it as the county, the state reimburses us that money, correct?
The state reimburses the vendors who run the High Five centers. Mm-hmm. So the money, the $460,000, is to fund the continual operation of the the certified redemption centers.
The operations.
Yes.
So my question to you is, I mean, there's places like, well, I'm not even going to use any names, but there's various businesses out there that run redemption centers, and they make money. They're profitable.
The thing.
Couldn't we be in the similar position?
The thing about, well, those are the private guys you're talking about. You're talking, in what way are you talking about a profit?
Well, obviously, like there's various businesses, like just use Atlas, for example. I go there. They basically are doing the same thing that we're doing at our the various redemption centers. They take the bottles, take the cans, they collect them. They seem to make money off of it. We seem to do the same thing and lose money.
Well, we're supporting the contracts that allow the vendors to set up. The reason why that we started this is to have more locations throughout the island, because the ones being run by the private guys are, they're in specific limited areas. So I think until they start maybe expanding out into areas where users can, find it convenient to go to, then at that point.
So are you saying, so like, for example, like Pahoa, there's not enough volume? We have a redemption center at the Pahoa transfer station, someplace like that. There's not enough volume for that to be, for us to be able to make money on that side of it? It's more providing the locations for folks to get to.
Right now, the redemption centers are at our recycling and transfer stations, and the conveniency of that is because, when people go dump their rubbish, they can also dump, drop off their high five cans and bottles and whatnot.
Okay, I'll have another conversation with you another time. It just seems like if there's a private company that could do it and make money, we should be not losing money. Get to that another time. Scrap metal as well. It's another area that people make money on. We should be in a position to profit from that as well.
Well, in that respect, that's why we're trying to cut down our costs on that too, by not having such a high contract cost, because that cost comes from running a scrap metal facility, a yard. Mm-hmm. So this new contract, I'm anticipating lowered costs, because we're just going to deal with hauling the residential scrap metal to a vendor who will accept it and who is also permitted to process it.
Correct. And again, that's an asset. They see it as an asset, and we're seeing it as a liability. Somehow we need to turn that around and see that as an asset and not be paying for it. We're paying to get it to them so they can profit off of it. No problem with them making a profit off of it. Yeah. Again, I just don't think we should be in a position to lose money.
And let me add that we're going to be that's why we're expecting the commercial folks to take it directly to a private vendor. We're not going to deal with the commercial scrap.
Okay. And on that note, I think this is more affirmation of the bill that I have in process right now, to have the solid waste haulers not extend, so we don't extend credit to them, because that again is about $1.5 million. And if that were collected, wastewater was collected, the solid waste haulers were collected, be asking for maybe a couple $100,000. So I'm trying to close the holes. I know you guys are working hard. There's so much to be done, understaffed. So I'm not putting this on you per se. I want us to work together to solve these problems and close some of these loopholes. And that's, I think, more positive affirmation that one of my bills is in the right track.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
I've been talking to Dora about wastewater for several years now. We have two separate issues, as far as I see. First of all, maybe three. The department is understaffed in wastewater and has been forever. And we just don't seem to be able to get the kind of engineers that we need. We have them now, but we need more of those types of engineers to beef up this department. The other issue is we've got aging, deteriorating, and non-functional equipment that needs to be replaced several years ago, and we're still sitting there, and it's not getting replaced. And some of this equipment has been put on CIP lists, and they've been sitting there for years, and it's never gotten done. So I need to ask some questions, and I'm going to ask finance to nod their heads if I'm right, and go no, no, no if I'm wrong, okay? I'm going to start with this first picture with the two pumps that are, one's dead and they both need to be replaced, okay? I don't know what the cost of these things are, but my understanding is if equipment is long-term type equipment and it's over $25,000, we can use bonds for that. Is that correct? Come on up, Deanna.
I don't think the definition is quite right. It has to be part of a facility. One of our county properties, right? Okay. I just didn't want to say long-term equipment, over $25,000, because that could mean a truck or something. No. But right, I just want to be clarified that it's part of a facility, like a wastewater treatment plant, right?
That's all that Dora has is facilities. Right. Not talking trucks and vehicles. I'm just talking these. So, how much? First of all, are these two pumps on the CIP list? We had 26 projects at one time, and we're going to take, I think, 7 off. Are these on that project list for that you and I have been working on all these years? Or is this something new?
No, No, this particular item here is on the current budget right now for...
The CIP?
No, the operating budget.
How much are these to replace, clean this?
We're looking at an estimated cost of $35,000.
Okay, so the question I have is why aren't we looking at this as a CIP that we can bond instead of pulling it out of your budget that you desperately need for salaries and operational expenses and caustic whatever, chemicals to prevent the breakdown?
I think at one time, and maybe finance could confirm this, maybe because maybe it's changed. We were told that if it's over $1 million, then we can put it on the CIP.
Deanna, give us some help here. This can't continue to pull out these large sums of money out of her operational expenses. We've got to get this stuff bonded.
I think because the original intent was that these relatively smaller projects, like $35,000, would come out of the equipment replacement reserve.
Okay.
However, now, they're saying there's not really adequate funding there anymore for that. So, I mean, it's something we can look at, but we just have to make sure it is part of a facility.
Okay, we've all agreed, I hope we've all agreed that everything she's got, except her vehicles, is a facility. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to bond this. I think she is so far behind. No, this is not directed at you personally. The department is so far behind with equipment replacement that whether this is 35 and the next one is 100 and the next one is 2 million, we need to bond all this stuff and get it ordered if it's equipment, or get it repaired if it's a part of the facility, so that we can get her up to speed, so that it's not just a matter of this pump here being illegal. Illegal is the wrong word. A violation that we could get fined for. Nobody wants to talk and think about sewage. And I've worked with Dora for several years on this issue. But when you think about your home, when the toilet backs up, what becomes your number one priority, okay? There's only one thing you're going to think about, and that's what we've got here. This should be our number one priority as far as getting anything that we can put through CIP with bonds. We need to get it fixed now, because not only will get the EPA fines, but you've got a health hazard when these things break and spill out across our land. And then people have to be relocated until it's cleaned up. So it's kind of hard to clean this up. It's not nearly as tidy as Honolulu. So I'm looking at this to be bonded immediately. And then is the last page where you showed the hydrogen sulfide, which turns into sulfuric acid, and you said this is the headworks. Where is this? Is that part of the pictures from here in this section?
It's part of that same location, the Gila Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Okay.
Yeah. So the headworks is right after, it would be right after this septic receiving station.
So when we're looking, anything in this facility that needs to be replaced or repaired, to me, should be on a bond and not coming out of your budget. The problem is you're struggling with an operational budget that is not going to ever be adequate to take care of the high prices on the equipment and the facility. And I think we need to get that off your plate and into the CIP. So that takes care of the first one. Then you got your, what do you call these things? Flow masters.
Flow matchers.
The flow matchers, thank you. How much are these? And do you need one or two, or does that come as a pair?
This looks like it's two. They're both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give me a guesstimate what those cost, because I think this should be on CIP, all part of the same CIP.
We're looking at approximately $450,000.
Okay, definitely a CIP project. All right, next page. This lovely pump that has this hat on it to prevent it from being shorted out by the leak in the roof. How much is the leak in the roof? We need to fix the roof. How much is that?
Oh, I'd venture to guess, because I don't have an exact number.
Give me a guess.
Maybe 5,000.
$5,000 is all it takes to fix that roof? I think you better go talk to Warren, but let's just say you're right, 5,000. And then did we need to replace this pump station?
No, the pumps don't need.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then how much is this mess going to cost us?
That one is going to be about 190,000.
Okay. 190. Please hang on for just a second. And is this part of the same mess in the same spot?
Part of the same mess.
Okay. Now, these are things that I personally don't know about unless they're hidden inside of some of our other CIP stuff that we were working on, right?
Well, you know, there are some projects, wastewater projects that are on the CIP list.
And they're not bonded yet.
Not yet, because they are future.
Yeah.
Future. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to summarize this. I'm not going to go into solid waste. I'm not going to do the recycling. You guys are all covering that. This is vital, and we have two. Okay, and those are mega millions of dollars that need to be done. So when we look at these things, you're struggling to pay for these huge capital expenses out of an operational budget. We've got to do something different. So I want to see something coming forward to us as a CIP project with all of these things on it. And as I told you, I can redo my other list for those. But we need to bond these folks. We've got to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak? This is my second time.
Okay. Councilmember Eoff didn't speak yet, so I'm going to let Councilmember Eoff, sorry.
Okay, just a question. At the bottom of the handout, where you listed some of your significant funding needs, there's about five items with dollar amounts.
Under Section 5?
Yes. So aside from what Ms. Ford was talking about, which are bigger line items that could be bonded, would adding this, I think it adds up just approximately to $2,400,000, would adding that to your current budget requests be the amount that you're asking to put back in, or to put in?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Iligan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Director Beck. My question actually expands onto Councilmember Kern's with solid waste and the commercial haulers. For the solid waste program, I've been hearing and talking to some of the haulers, and from what I'm hearing is that there's haulers where they start up a corporation and seize their assets and actually sells their assets to another establish another corporation, and because of all the expenses and the fees that they didn't pay, they move on to a separate corporation. Now, so is that true? Where? Okay.
Yes. These are the rubbish haulers,
Yes.
not wastewater, and that is true.
Right, not wastewater.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I said wastewater. Solid waste. So that is true. Okay. I just wanted to get a confirmation from you. Other than that, I know you have a difficult job with your department, and being an interim, getting into this, it's tough, and you need more staff. Well, hopefully we can work things out somehow, if we can find other sources for funding, and try to help you out in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to kind of expand on what Ms. Ford is saying, that, yeah, we do need major infrastructure in the wastewater area, but I would like to propose doing that in a way of improvement districts. I would live in Puna and represent Puna, and we don't have any wastewater in ours. There obviously, and there's a lot of rural areas, and I know Ms. Ford's District 6, so you have a lot of area that there is no wastewater in. That some areas might need wastewater. Like I want to work on working on a project for Pahoa to do an improvement district in Pahoa. So that might make sense and not spread it across the board, but we would be able to focus the bonds and see the CIP into those areas that need that core area, and they would be able to basically fund those improvements that they would have the direct benefit from. It's an idea to kind of concentrate that in there to get the direct effect at the end of the day, achieve the results that we want to achieve. But with our geographically challenged island, it's like I say, I live in a district that has no wastewater. It's hard for me to want to pay more into that. I'd love to have funds going into that to make improvements in the district to have a wastewater facility in there. So I think while we do need millions of dollars, I would like to see it done as improvement districts. With that, I'll yield. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. I need to explain something to the council. First of all, improvement districts have to be voted on by the people who are going to be paying for them. And I forget if it's 75, what did you do with your water?
Over 50%.
Over 50%. So 50 plus 1% have to vote to do it. And it's really hard to get people to pay for wastewater systems. Nobody wants to pay for wastewater systems. It's not sexy, and you think you're not using it. Here's the reason the whole county should bond these wastewater improvements that we need for DORAs. Every one of us, it doesn't matter whether we live, I'm on a cesspool. I mean, my house is old enough, I'm on a cesspool. I'm not on a sewer. But I come to work at a county that is on a sewer system. And everybody who goes to the supermarket or the stores, they're almost always on sewer systems. Not all of them. Out in my area, I got plenty that aren't, but most of us are using the sewer systems someplace in the county, and we use it a lot. It's not like, you know, we're just sitting at home on our own private little IWS and nature takes care of it. We're all using all the sewer systems. Now, maybe I'm not using the one in Hamakua today, but maybe next month I'll be up there and I will be using it. We all are responsible for this mess that we've got, and we all need to chip in. We spread it out. It's not so bad on any one group. But if you try to get any group, any local district, even a business improvement district, that was a nightmare to get past. The water system that Karen worked on was relatively easy because they wanted water and they're all willing to pay for it. But when you're dealing with wastewater, it's almost impossible to get people to do a special improvement district. And we cannot wait to do that. I think it took, how many years to get your water? Come on. 7 years. 7 years to do the water, and the business improvement district was what, 3? Something, 3? Was that right? 3. Can't wait, you guys. We are going to wind up as a county getting fined, and we're going to have sewage spills, and we're going to have all kinds of problems. And if you get fines, it's not going to be by district. It's going to be the whole county paying for it. It's a waste of our money to pay a fine. We've got to fix this. I want to see bonds coming before this council 30 days, 6 weeks at the latest is what I want to see bonds coming through this council for all of the improvements that DORA needs in wastewater. We've already appropriated a lot of stuff for you for solid waste, but wastewater is so far behind. And that way, I support Mr. Kern's bill to collect that money, because it will give you money. And we know we got to get you some more for engineers and staff and wastewater treatment personnel. But it's going to have to work on both things simultaneously. So I am really, really looking to see a bond issue coming forward to this council. I don't care how big it is at this point, because I know what the problem is going to be if this stuff all goes downhill. The worst one we had was the sewer line in Mr. Onishi's current or former. It certainly was your former district. It's still your district. That one used to give Lona Tyson nightmares. He said it could collapse, and we're not even talking about sewer lines yet. We're not even getting to the sewer lines. This is, you know, the plants where we're taking care of the sewage once it gets there. So, Ms. Crawford, I am asking your department to get us a bond, talk to her, get a bond, a big bond, to take care of all the problems that she's got really fast. Thank you. That's it. I'm getting excited here.
Thank you. Any other council members? Thank you so much for your presentation, and if they have further questions, they will be contacting your office. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes the portion of our departmental and program reviews. So at this time, I'm going